بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد سيد الأولين والآخرين وعلى جميع إخوانه من النبيين والمرسلين وآل كل والصحب كل ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما يا رب العالمين. All praise is due to Allah, and may Allah raise the rank of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and protect his nation from that which he fears for them. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, let us first have the proper intention in our hearts to attend the lesson for the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, يا أيها الذين آمنوا قوا أنفسكم وأهليكم نارا وقودها الناس والحجارة. In this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala orders us to protect ourselves and our families from hellfire that is fueled by people and stones. Imam Ali radiyallahu anhu, the fourth caliph and the cousin of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the most knowledgeable of this nation after Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, interpreted this ayah as to mean that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ordering us to learn what is beneficial. Imam Ali radiyallahu anhu said, acquire the beneficial knowledge and teach it to your family. So this is the way a person would protect himself and his family from hellfire that is fueled by people and stones. Also, the greatest follower of the companions, Ata ibn Abi Rabah, he is one of the students of Abdullah ibn Abbas, the other cousin of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ata ibn Abi Rabah interpreted the ayah as to mean that you acquire the knowledge about how to pray, how to fast, how to perform pilgrimage, how to sell and buy, and how to marry and how to divorce. What is understood from the interpretation of this ayah as provided by Imam Ali radiyallahu anhu, the companion, and Ata ibn Abi Rabah, the follower of the companions, is that the way to save yourself and your family from hellfire is obtained by acquiring the knowledge about religion. So the one who acquires that obligatory knowledge, that necessary knowledge for himself, and he teaches that knowledge to his family, by this he would be protecting himself and his family from hellfire that is fueled by people and stones. So in this ayah, there is a threat for those who neglect that portion of knowledge, those who do not acquire the obligatory knowledge, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made obligatory upon them to know of the matters of the religion. every accountable person, meaning every Muslim who is sane and pubescent, must acquire a portion of the Islamic knowledge. We call this the obligatory knowledge, without which one would be unable to know if he is performing the prayer properly or improperly. Without this portion of knowledge, one wouldn't be able to know if he is fasting properly or not, if he performs Hajj as ordered or not. Many people do not acquire that necessary portion of knowledge to an extent that all what they do is they perform what looks like an act of worship, but in fact it's an invalid act of worship. So the one who does not acquire that portion of knowledge by which he would be able to perform the prayer properly and to fast properly and to perform Hajj properly and to buy and sell without falling into any prohibited transaction, the one who does not acquire that portion of knowledge would be subjecting himself to the torture of hellfire. For that reason, the scholars of Islam said, whoever does not know this portion of knowledge, and there is no one in his country to teach him that portion of knowledge, he must travel to another country where he finds a trustworthy person who can teach him that portion of knowledge to that extent. So it is not even an excuse for that person to say, I don't have anyone to teach me in this country about these obligatory matters. He has to travel to another place. Ahmad Ibnu Rislan Al-Shafi said, من لم يكن يعلم ذا فليسأل من لم يجد معلما فليرحل. The one who does not know that portion of knowledge, he needs to acquire it by going to trustworthy people from whom he can learn that portion of knowledge. من لم يجد معلما, if he cannot find that teacher, trustworthy teacher who can teach him that portion of knowledge, then he has to travel to another country where he can find someone who would teach him the obligatory knowledge. In Sahih al-Bukhari, it is narrated that Jabir ibn Abdullah traveled for 1 month for a hadith. He traveled for 1 month to make sure that this hadith was said by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Just one hadith to make sure that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said it. These days, many people are lazy acquiring that portion of knowledge. They are ready to spend hours and hours watching TV, football games, going to cinemas. But when it comes to learning that obligatory knowledge, they are very lazy. Those people are putting themselves in a great danger that they might be subject to that severe torture in hellfire on the day of judgment. Many people as well, they put as a first priority to learn the worldly sciences. They learn about engineering. They want to learn about medication and other worldly sciences, which are important. However, that is not the first priority. The first priority is to learn about your religion. So you find many people are putting a lot of effort just to have some certificates where they can find a job where they can get a good income from it. All what they look for is to live a luxurious life. It happened once, one person in Lebanon was focusing on teaching his son the worldly sciences. Some people advised him, they told him, why don't you send your son so he can learn how to recite Quran, how to pray? He said he's still young. So he did not send his son to learn these matters. When his son finished year 12, they told him, now he finished year 12. Why don't you send him to learn? He said, no, after. I want to send him overseas to learn, to become a doctor, professor, whatever. Then after that he can learn. He's still young. His son went overseas. The father was working day and night, trying to provide his son with the money he needs to obtain that certificate. Suddenly, the father passed away. His son heard about the death of his father, so he came back to Lebanon. He went with people to the mosque, but unfortunately he stayed outside. He was waiting outside because he doesn't know how to perform wudu. He doesn't know how to pray. So he did not pray the funeral prayer for his father. They took him to the graveyard. They buried his father and they said, Al-Fatiha. Let us recite Al-Fatiha for him. He started gazing at the people around him. He doesn't know what Al-Fatiha is. So what did the father get from his son? From that type of education, the worldly sciences. If he didn't recite Al-Fatiha for his father, he didn't make istighfar for his father. It is mentioned in the Hadith that while a person is in paradise, he will be raised in ranks and he will exclaim, how this is happening? Why he's being raised in ranks in paradise? Where did that come from? And they tell him, this is from the istighfar, asking for forgiveness that your son or your children were doing for you after your death. When you say, oh Allah, forgive my father, my mother, those who passed away, they will benefit by this istighfar. You don't know the amount of benefit that would reach them from this simple istighfar. But many people these days leave their children watching TV for hours, playing games for hours. They don't teach them how to make istighfar for their parents. Let us sit down, let us recite Al-Fatiha for the grandparents. And look, it's something real, it's a reality. How many times you reckon your children are reciting the Fatiha for your parents? How many times they mention them in a year? That's for their grandparents. Maybe once a year, maybe once every few years. And the maximum usually they say is that they say, Allah yarhamuhu or Allah yarhamuha. That's all. Have they ever thought to recite Juzu Amma and to dedicate the reward generated from reciting one Juzu? Doesn't take 1 hour. And dedicate that reward to the grandparents. That's it, you are forgotten. So now your children, if you die, they might mention you a couple of times a year. But your grandchildren, maybe once a year, once every couple of years. But what about the children? That's it, you're forgotten. Your history. That's why if you don't work for yourself, what do you expect? Others to do something for you? This life is very short. whatever you obtain in it for the hereafter, that's what you're going to find in your grave. You are the one to illuminate your grave with acts of obedience. If you don't work for yourself, what do you expect others to do for you? If you are not working hard so your grave can be enlarged and it can be illuminated, can be a patch of paradise. If you don't do this for yourself, what do you expect others to do that for you? If you are working that much for your grave, make sure that others, even if they are your own children, will give you only a little bit. That's just a little bit if they remember you. That's why Allah said, كُلُّ نَفْسٍ بِمَا كَسَبَتْ رَهِينَةٌ. Everyone is present in what? In what he performs, in what he acquires. Your actions are like a cell for you. So you're either trapped by good actions, acts of obedience, or bad actions, acts of disobedience. So you are trapped. You are imprisoned by your own deeds. Your deeds will be like a prison for you. And if you perform good deeds, you acquire good deeds in this life, you will be amongst the happy ones. But if you want to dedicate your time to worldly matters, then what about the matters that will benefit you in your grave and in the hereafter? Ilm al-Din, the Islamic knowledge, its result is everlasting happiness in the hereafter. The happiness of being saved from hellfire and being admitted into paradise. Allah Ta'ala said, فَمَنْ زُحْزِحَ عَنِ النَّارِ وَأُدْخِلَ الْجَنَّةَ فَقَدْ فَازَ. That's the victory that you look for. That's the win. That should be your objective. To be moved away from hellfire and to be admitted into paradise. If you manage to be amongst those that are saved from hellfire and are admitted into paradise without prior torture, that's a win. That's a win. That's the winning person. That's the everlasting happiness you look for. But as for the worldly sciences that many people are proud of obtaining in this life, and they work very hard for years and years, and all what they look for is to have a comfortable life, luxurious life. But the hope will be terminated by death. That hope that they have, they're looking for, will suddenly be severed, will suddenly be interrupted by what? By death. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Uzkuru hazim al-lazzat al-maut." Hazim, hazama, severs rapidly, quickly, swiftly, faster than what you may expect. How many people would expect to live for 60 and 70, but they will be faced by death at an early age? Go to the graveyard, check the ages of those who passed away. Are they in the same age? No. You will find a baby, you will find 3-year-old, 5, 6, 7, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, all ages. So there is no specific age that when a person reaches that age will die and before he will not die. You cannot guarantee one more breath in your life, one more breath. Rather, your breath is counted from the moment you are born, you are out of the womb. From the moment you start breathing, it's a countdown. Just imagine 1 million breaths you're gonna have in this life. Every time you take a breath, it's one less. Then another one, it's one less. Every one of us now might be breathing the last number of breaths in this life. He might sleep, might not wake up in the morning. One of our brothers, he used to be healthy and he was an athlete. He used to go to the gym. His body was built, never complained from any sickness. Came back home and he said to his mother, "Mom, I want to sleep for 1 hour, wake me up after 1 hour." Wake me up after 1 hour. He slept. His mother went after 1 hour, tried in vain to wake him up, but she couldn't. He was dead. Never complained from any sickness in this life. He was healthy, but death came to him at this time. That's the will of Allah, that that person would live up to that age. So you cannot say because you find yourself healthy, so you expect to live for more, for another 10 years or another 20 years. No. How many sick people lived with the sickness for maybe 80 years? And some healthy ones would die in 40s. What you are supposed to do in this life to be accepted, so when you die, you'll be a winner, not a loser. You need to know this. First, you need to acquire the knowledge about the religion, by which you know how to perform the acts of worship in an accepted manner. Otherwise, you might perform outwardly as if you are praying or fasting, but in reality, you are performing an invalid act of worship which is not accepted. For that reason, the Prophet ﷺ said, رُبَّ قَائِمٍ لَيْسَ لَهُ مِنْ قِيَامِهِ إِلَّا السَّهَرُ وَالتَّعَبُ وَرُبَّ صَائِمٍ لَيْسَ لَهُ مِنْ صِيَامِهِ إِلَّا الْجُوعُ وَالْعَطَشُ. A person may stay at night awake praying. That's outwardly, that what can be seen. But he doesn't get from his prayers except he was tired and he didn't sleep. And you may find a person who fasts outwardly the whole day, but he doesn't get from his fast except that he was hungry and thirsty. Some may say, but what about the intention? Yes, the intention is not enough. Intention is very important, to have the intention for the sake of Allah. So you are not doing this to be praised by people. You must have the intention to be rewarded. Intention as well for some acts of worship is an integral, and for other acts of worship is necessary for one to gain rewards. So if, for instance, you see a poor person and you want to help him, you give him money. If you give him money, but you don't put the intention in your heart, you are doing this for the sake of Allah, you won't be rewarded. You don't get one single unit of reward. but you are not sinful, because you are not doing it to be praised by people with insincerity. Al-Riya insincerity is to perform the act of worship seeking the praise of people. Seeking the praise of people. Here you are sinful. But if you give him money to the poor, you give him money, your intention is not to be praised by people. At the same time, you did not put in your heart the intention for the sake of Allah. You are not sinful, but you are not rewarded either. But in the prayer, if you don't put the intention to pray the obligatory Zuhr prayer, for instance, you just stand up and you say Allahu Akbar without putting any intention on your heart, your prayer is invalid. If you go to perform Hajj and you don't put any intention in your heart to perform Hajj, then your Hajj will be invalid. So for some acts of worship, intention is necessary for its validity and the reward as well. For other acts of worship, the good deeds, it's necessary to gain rewards from Allah Azza wa Jal. But if you don't have it, you won't be sinful. We perform many good deeds in our daily life, but we forget to have the good intention. For instance, a person may go to work. He forgets to have the intention, I want to go to work so I can get money, so I can pay the obligatory sustenance to my wife and children as per the order of Allah. He doesn't put that intention in his heart. He doesn't get rewarded. A lady might wake up as a force of habit, starts cleaning, washing the clothes, cooking and the like, without putting a good intention in the heart that she's doing this for the sake of Allah. She doesn't get rewarded. She's getting tired, but she doesn't get rewarded. But for acts of worship such as prayer, intention is necessary for its validity. But the intention is not everything. So if you have a good intention, but you perform the act of worship in an invalid manner, that act of worship is invalid. Instead of praying Maghrib 3 rak'ahs, you pray 2. It's invalid. Instead of fasting from dawn till sunset, you fast from dawn till Asr. Then you break your fast. This is not fasting. This is not fasting. Some ignorant people make up their own rules. If their children reach the age of 7, instead of ordering them to fast in Ramadan from dawn till sunset and watch them and monitor them, see if they can bear fasting, what they do, they say, you fast half a day. They came up with this innovated idea. Fast half a day, up to Zuhr. Then they tell them, now you break your fast. Where is that from? Where is that coming from? It's not part of the religion. You order your son, your daughter to fast when they reach the age of 7 and they are mumayyiz. They can discriminate, so they can understand the question, comprehend it and give a proper answer. Order them to fast and pray as we pray, as we fast. But regarding fasting, you see if they can bear it. If they can tolerate fasting, let them continue. It's not going to harm them. But if that child is a special case, he cannot fast, his body is very weak, you observed him, you found that he is unable to fast, then you tell him to break the fast. You need to do what you are supposed to do to protect yourself and your wife and your children from hellfire that is fueled by people and stones. If you don't do this, you don't love your wife. You don't love your children. If you don't do that, that means you don't love them. Loving your wife is not as some people may think. They wait for what is called Valentine Day, and he would bring his wife a flower. That's not the love. The real love is to think about the future of your wife, how she's going to be saved from hellfire. I need to teach her the obligatory knowledge. It's either by yourself, or if you are unable to provide that knowledge, send her to someone who is trustworthy, who can teach her that obligatory knowledge. That's if you love your wife. If you love your children, think about your children not being tortured in hellfire. Set your compass to the right direction. Where should I go? How my life should be? Learn the obligatory knowledge. On top of that obligatory knowledge is the knowledge pertaining to knowing about Allah and His Messenger. Because with that knowledge, you know that you have the correct belief in Allah and His Messenger. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ continued the hadith by saying, adhere to the majority of my nation and do not drift away from them. For the devil is closer to the one when he is by himself, and he is further from him when he is with someone else. And imagine when you are with the majority of this nation. Stay with those who would bring you closer to religion. Do not be close to the ones who would drift you away from religion. Those who would tell you to spend time in matters that would not benefit you in your grave and in the hereafter. Those do not love you. I always mention this. They say, this is my best friend. And if you ask him these questions, has he ever told you to pray? He would say, no. Has he ever told you to go to a religious session where you can learn about your religion? He would say, no. Has he ever warned you against committing the haram, the sins? He would say, no. This is not a friend. The friend is the one that directs you, reminds you that you need to perform the obligations to avoid the sins. He calls you before the lesson. Don't forget, tonight is the lesson. I want to see you there. That's your friend. That's the one who cares for you. You're the one that uses you. The one who wants to have fun. That's why he hangs around with you. He wants to laugh, waste his time. The true friend is the one that reminds you of performing the obligations and avoiding the sins. The one who reminds you to learn the obligatory knowledge. Because without that knowledge, how would you be able to know what is right and what is false? What is classified as proper faith, the true creed, and what is false. You must have the correct belief in Allah and His Messenger in order to be identified as a believer. To believe in God means to believe that the creator of the universe does not resemble any of His creations. The creator does not resemble the creations. That's the belief in God. The creator does not need the creations. Who created us? Allah. Allah doesn't need us. Who created the skies? Allah. Allah doesn't need them. So why Allah created the skies then? For the angels. The Prophet ﷺ said, in each sky, in every distance of 4 fingers, there is an angel praying to Allah Azza wa Jal. Praying. He might be in the standing position or ruku' or sujood. He's in the prayer. So if you are able to see the skies, you will see the skies are congested with angels, and at a distance of 4 fingers, of every 4 fingers, you see an angel. That means they are very close to each other. And they are praying. See how sometimes you come to the mosque, let us say in Ramadan, you want to pray Taraweeh prayer in the mosque, when they are praying the Sunnah, before, let us say, the Fard, you go to the mosque and you see people praying. They've just arrived. You see this one is in the standing position, that one is in the ruku', that one is in the sujood, praying. One is going up, one is going down. This is the meaning of the hadith. So the angels are praying in the skies. They pray as we do. So the skies are congested with angels. It's impossible that Allah Azza wa Jal is in the sky, resides the skies that are crowded with angels. That's impossible. Because Allah exists before creating the skies. And as Allah exists without being in the skies, before creating the skies, after creating the skies, Allah still exists without being in the skies. It's very simple, because Allah does not change. Because Allah does not change. Change is the most obvious sign that such a thing is a creation. That's why Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam used this as a logic proof to tell his people who were in Iraq, in Babel, that the sun, the moon, and the star do not deserve to be worshipped. How did he establish the logic proof, the intellectual proof against them that the sun, the moon, and the planet are not gods? It will disappear eventually. The moon will not remain seen 24 hours, will disappear eventually. Same with the planet. So when every one of them disappeared, he said to them, Inni la uhibbul afilin. Those who change, disappear. They appear then they disappear. They are changing from one stage into another. That means they are in need of the one who is changing them. And the one who is in need is weak, and the one who is weak cannot be God. This is the proof that he established against them to teach them that those creations do not deserve to be worshipped. Because logically, it's impossible that you created yourself. Because in such hypothesis as they claim, it would mean that you existed before yourself to create yourself. So in one perspective, you existed before yourself as a creator for yourself. In another perspective, you existed after yourself as a creation for yourself. So you existed before yourself and after yourself, and this is impossible. So logically, a person would say, yeah, I did not create myself. And you know that's seen by you, observed by you, that you are not the one that is changing yourself. You are a little child. Sometimes you look in the picture, oh, I changed heaps. Then you look at yourself, you're growing, you start having mustache. Becoming a teenager, then growing more and more, then you start having gray beard and so on. So you see these changes happening. You know you had nothing to do with that, with these changes. You are not the one who intended to change yourself in that way. So that means because you are changing and you are not the one who is changing himself, so you are in need of the one who is changing you. That means you are weak. That means you are not God. So anything that changes is in need to the one that is changing it. And the one who is in need is weak, and the one who is weak cannot be God. Very simple. So some people may say, yeah, we do believe in God, but they believe that God is like a human being with limbs. They start, wal-iyazu billah, describing God as describing a deformed human being. The scholars like Imam Ahmad Ibn Hanbal and the Dhun al-Misriyy said, whatever you imagine in your mind, Allah does not resemble it. Because Allah is not a body. Allah exists without a place, before creating the places and after creating the places. Allah does not change. So those who believe that Allah is sitting on the throne or residing in the skies and the like, if you ask them who created the skies, they say Allah. If you ask them who created the throne, Al-Arsh, they say Allah. So you tell them, so Allah exists before them. They say yes. So He exists before creating the place, before creating the skies, before creating the Arsh. So He exists without a place, without being on the Arsh, without being in the skies, without being in a place or direction. After Allah created them, Allah does not change. Because we've just mentioned that change is the most obvious sign that such a thing that changes is a creation. That's why the scholars of Ahl-Sunnah wal Jama'ah said Allah exists without a place. That's why Imam Abu Mansoor Al-Baghdadi, who died in the year 429 after Hijrah, in his book called Al-Farqu-Bayn Al-Firaq, the difference between the sects, in a book printed by Dar al-Kutub al-Ilmiya, page 256, he said, Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah agreed unanimously that Allah exists without a place and without being subject to time. That was at that time. He is from those who lived close to the era of As-Salaf. And he wrote this book. He wrote this book. So that's why if you want to save yourself and your children, first, you need to focus on this kind of knowledge, on the belief, correct belief in Allah and His Messenger, to make sure that they don't believe any belief that contradicts the two testifications of faith. Then you teach them how to pray, how to fast, how to perform the obligations. You teach them about the forbidden matters so they can avoid them. This is the way to save yourself and to save them from hellfire. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to save us, to save our families, our children from hellfire, and to grant us paradise without prior torture. Ameen. And Allah knows best. We say La ilaha illallah 3 times.